everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Hawaii Retirement Show. Today we have a little quick bonus episode. I just wanted to touch on the temporary hazard pay for state workers and kind of referencing the ERS Winter 2024 newsletter. And all those ERS newsletters and publications and resources, they're all available on the ERS website. And a lot of good information there, and I thought, there's a couple good things to touch on as it pertains to retirement planning. And so thought we'd do a little bonus episode just talking about it. So for those listening, you probably have received the temporary hazard pay, right? So you're aware that it's additional compensation for working through COVID. And depending on your time in the office during that COVID era, and I think your position, I don't think all state workers receive this temporary hazard pay. I think there was some cohorts that did not. But you either receive $10,000 or $20,000, depending on your eligibility and how much you were in the office. So the first payment was made in October of 2024. Second payment will be made in March of 2025. Now, why that's significant from a tax planning standpoint is that it's in two different tax years, right? So, you're going to get this extra $10,000 in 2024 for taxes and extra $10,000 in 2025 for taxes. So you got to anticipate that, you're paying more. Most of you who received it, you probably had taxes withheld from it. I think almost everybody did if you just received it. Now, they did give you an option to put it into like your 457 deferred comp plan, right? And if you did that, then you would, and it was not in the Roth deferred comp, because if you put it into the Roth 457 deferred comp, you still would pay the taxes on it. But if it was in the traditional pre-tax or tax deferred, as they call it, version of the 457, then it wouldn't affect you as far as taxes for this year. Now, I think it would count for the maximum amount that you can contribute to the 457 in that year. You still need to adhere to those maximum contribution limits for the years. But if you decide to dump it all in there, then, it's tax deferred, which is a good thing, all depending on what your tax planning strategy is. So last part about taxes that I'll bring up is just kind of be aware of it, especially as we roll into tax season coming up here, that, this may have pushed you, or you and your family, if you're married filing jointly, into maybe a higher tax bracket, right? If you just got that extra $10,000 boost that year. And you just be aware of that, and, you end up reconciling that during tax time there. So the other part I wanted to touch on as far as this temporary hazard pay, THP as they're calling it, is how and when it counts towards your ERS benefit. And from the newsletter there, what it states is that it's eligible to be counted towards your ERS benefit only for members who were hired before July 1st, 2012. So that July 1st, 2012, for you state workers, I'm sure that's when it kind of switched from hybrid 1 to hybrid 2, right? There's those two different hybrid plans. And from what I'm reading, then for those who were in the hybrid 1, hired before July 1st, 2012, then it will count towards your high 3 or your average final compensation if it falls, if it's a part of your high 3, right? Let's say, you got the extra $10,000 in 2024, right? So you raised your base salary by $10,000 for 2024 and 2025. But if you're still working for another 5-10 years, it might not really matter when it all boils down to it, because you might have higher compensation down the road in your career, right? But for those who are retiring here in the near term, let's say you were planning to retire in 2 years, then, your high 3, your average final compensation, as the ERS refers to it, would be increased by $10,000 in 2 of those 3 years that they use to calculate it, right? So that's significant. And the ERS newsletter even mentioned how it's going to have a little bit of an impact on the ERS funding. They're going to have to account for this, because now that it does count as eligible compensation for those folks, and it could result in it's not going to be a significant bump, but hey, there's an extra 10,000 towards your high 3 for that computation. It's going to be something, right? And that's a good thing. For those, unfortunately, in hybrid 2, hired after July 1st, 2012, it has no bearing or impact on your high 3 or average final compensation. So that's it. Just a quick bonus episode here talking about the temporary hazard pay for state workers. As always, if there's anything particular you'd like me to talk about on the show, email it over to aloha@hawaiiretirementshow.com, and I'll catch everyone on the next one.
The opinions and statements presented on this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Never make any investment or financial decisions based on information offered on this show without first consulting your financial, legal, or tax advisor. All economic and performance information mentioned on the show is historical in nature and is not indicative of any future results. All indices mentioned on this show are unmanaged and cannot be invested in directly. All information is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representation as to its completeness or accuracy. Lastly, all opinions expressed by Jason Cutitta and any guests on the show are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of or are endorsed by ToBA Financial. For Jason Cutitta, investment advisory services are offered through ToBA Financial LLC, a registered investment advisor offering advisory services in the state of Hawaii and in other jurisdictions where exempt from registration.